Hello and welcome to another Play Better Chess video. Were chess masters of the past any good? What do you think? Feel free to leave comments with your answer there. But some of them were in fact pretty good. I mean, you've heard of Paul Morphy, a great player from the past. Today, I'm going to talk about Howard Staunton and go over a game of his. He was born in 1810 in London, England, and he lived to 1874, died at 64 years old. And this player, the Staunton chess pieces are actually named after him. So the most common set of chess pieces were named after this player. All right, I'm going to look at a game from 1843. So let me find this game here and we'll take a look at it. All right. Oh, that might be the wrong one. Let me go back here. Let's see. Must be further. Okay, here's the one I want to look at. Sorry about that. Okay. In this game, we have Howard Staunton with the white pieces, and they didn't have ratings back then. I guess they figured that his equivalent rating for today would be 2520, so he would be probably considered a grandmaster. And he played Pierre de Saint-Amant, a French player with a 2400 equivalent rating to today's ratings. So this was played in 1843, a match at Paris, France. And as far as accuracy, it looks like Howard Staunton played with 85.9% accuracy versus 76.1% by his opponent. So modern chess players, they have computers that they can use, and that really makes a difference. That and all the opening theory that has been developed, over the centuries, which these players from the past did not have all this. Why is this stuff popping up on my computer? Get this out of here. Oh my gosh. Sorry about that. If it popped up, I don't know if you're even able to see that. Okay, so let's move my image here a little bit. All right, in this game, we had two great moves by Staunton, bad moves, one inaccuracy by him, 5 by his opponent. Staunton did make 2 mistakes, but his opponent made a blunder. So let's take a look at this. I will turn on the computer analysis, and here we go. So what can we learn from these past masters? I definitely recommend that you go over games from the past masters, and the lower your rating, or the closer you are to being a beginner, the more you want to look at these older games, because they're easier to understand and to know what's going on compared to modern computer assisted openings. The modern chess masters are more complicated for the beginners, but still go over those and see what you can understand. All right, the game began with e4, e5, and now Staunton plays knight f3, attacking the pawn here, and the pawn is defended with knight to c6. And so now we have bishop to c4, which covers the center, and it also aims at this f7 pawn, which can be a weakness in these open games like this, because only the king is defending that. So the threat could be of the knight jumping up here and threatening to capture, forking the queen and the rook. So that's a possible threat in this opening if black does not watch out. So we have bishop to c5. And of course, the knight cannot jump up here now, or the queen would just capture it. So what does Staunton do? He plays c3 immediately. And the idea behind this move is that d4 can be played. And so if you have capture, the c pawn would recapture and attack the bishop, and white would gain some control in the center with both pawns there. All right, so queen to e7 here, lining up on the opponent's queen and this, or excuse me, the opponent's king and this pawn. And it also defends black's pawn as well. So here we go. Staunton attacks anyway in the center, even though this pawn is unprotected. So we have capture. That is an inaccuracy. Apparently, it would have been better to retreat the bishop. And that is why, well, first, this is ignored, the pawn that has been captured. And this is a great move, castling to safety, because now if the queen were to try and capture, well, the rook could pin that queen to the king here. So the game continues with knight jumping forward and forking the knight and the bishop here. So this is an inaccuracy. Apparently d3, just pushing this pawn forward would have been better, because if this pawn pushes forward, then this pawn could no longer attack, chasing the bishop and having two great central pawns here for white. But instead, this inaccuracy is played with the knight. And capture, queen captures, and now this allows this pawn to push forward attacking the queen, but that is a mistake. White is still ahead here, but it would have been better to push b4 and chase this bishop, which is lining up on the king now. So this is probably another reason this f4 pawn move wasn't the greatest. So now we have capture, the best move, with a discovered check. And then the king moves into the corner here on h1. And now we have the queen lining up, creating a battery here. Of course, the rook is protecting everything. The rook is covering. But the threat is also of this capture, perhaps. And, it looks like Staunton's opponent maybe wanted to trade queens off. So what does Staunton do? He avoids that trade, playing the best move, creating a battery here and threatening to capture the weak f-pawn. So we have knight developing, protecting the pawn. White develops his knight and also captures the pawn here. So capture, black castles to safety, and now h3, a mistake here. And the game is about even now. Bishop to e2, dropping this bishop back here would have been a better move, apparently, to keep pieces out of this g4 square. So that's probably why this h3 move was played, to keep the knight and the bishop out of there in the future, maybe. So let's see what happens. Pawn pushes forward, the best move. Perhaps preparing to either push this pawn or this one. And it keeps the knight from being able to move forward. So now we have f5, the best move in the position, with a discovered attack on the knight, threatening to capture and break up the kingside pawns. So the queen retreats back to guard the knight, and this is a blunder. A blunder here. So d5 apparently would have been best. Just pushing forward in the center, allowing this bishop to be developed. So why is this a blunder? Well, the best move is e5, attacking the queen, gaining space. And what does the queen do now? Well, queen to h4, continuing to defend the knight. Knight is captured and recaptured by the queen, but apparently capturing with a pawn would have been better, because then maybe the king could move over and at some point a rook could try and aim down the g-file. But we have knight developing with an attack on the bishop. Bishop moves forward, centralizing, attacking the unprotected pawn. And knight launches forward into this outpost, attacking the bishop. So queen to h5, an inaccuracy. Apparently, queen to e3, centralizing the queen would have been better here. So now we have capture and recapture. Queen is under attack. Pawn captures, and now the knight is unprotected and attacked by this bishop. So instead of worrying about the knight, the rook that was doing nothing in the corner is centralized, attacks the bishop, and if the bishop captures, the rook could deliver a check here, although the bishop would be able to go back and block. So the queen is under attack here, and that has to be dealt with. And this is pretty interesting. So if I go back some, the queen is attacked, and that is ignored. So apparently it was best to capture this pawn and then ignore the attack on the queen. Huh. And the threat here is queen captures with check, and then the king would be forced to move into the corner, and then the queen would mate on the back rank here. So that's why the bishop captures to get rid of this get rid of one of the attackers. And now it would have been best to capture the queen. So capture with check, queen captures, and now Staunton is just winning after a check here, block, rooks double up on the open file, and he is up with a queen here. Material wise, he's only ahead by +1 though. So rook moves over, getting ready to bring another rook up to the back rank. So his opponent trying to trade material, and the rooks are doubled. And this was an inaccuracy. Apparently, rook takes on f8 would have led to a mate in 5. So we'll take a quick look at that. Capture. King would be forced to capture. Queen to e3 with a threat of mate in 1 here. So rook to d8 to block that, but it would still be horrible for black with check. King is forced to move, and then capture with check, forcing the king off the back rank, and then queen to e8 check or e7. So here the king is forced to go back up, and then you have queen to e8 mate. So that's one possibility. But in the game, we had the rooks doubling up here on the back rank. And then after capture, the pawn pushes forward to allow this bishop to move. But then the queen centralizing, grabbing the half-open file. The bishop develops, but it allows an exchange of pieces here, which is what you want to do when you're ahead in material. And the bishop pair and extra pawns will not be enough. It's 6, the equivalent of what? 6, 7, 8 pawns versus a queen's 9 pawn equivalent is just not enough because the queen is so powerful. So we have queen checking, king moves into the corner, which is forced, and the game ended here because If this bishop tries to move and run away, well, then there will be a back rank mate threat. So let's say the bishop, I don't know, moves here. Then you have a queen delivering a check. The bishop would have to move back to where it was and then be captured, delivering a back rank mate. So this is where Pierre de Saint-Amant resigned, and Howard Staunton takes the win here. So yes, there were some great players from the past. They didn't have the benefit of strong computers like we do today, and their openings may not have been as strong because there's been centuries of chess masters improving and improving on different openings. So I still recommend checking out some of these great players of the past to see what you can learn from them. Some of them were very good at tactics. Sometimes they preferred tactics above everything else when they should have relied on more strategy. But you can still learn a lot. So feel free to leave any comments. Like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and have a super chess day.